Hi, this is John Rowell with the Rowell Report. Today is Tuesday, September 30th, 2025, and here on the screen you'll see Trump's full 20-point plan to end Israel's war on Gaza. So I'm just going to run through this as quickly as I can. I'm sure if you have a smartphone or computer and you have internet, you've either already seen it or you can see it, but I'll just move through so that if you haven't seen it or don't have any way to see it, that you can read it as I scroll down, and you can pause the video if you like. The first point: Gaza will be de-radicalized, terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. So I won't get into that because that involves the whole history of Gaza, and people aren't radicalized because they want to. So the next point is Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza. So if you really believe that, then I have swampland to sell you in Florida. This would be Gaza would basically become a part of Israel, and only a few of the Gazans probably would be allowed to live there, either to sweep streets or to serve tables or to do some kind of a song and dance to entertain all the people who go to the casinos and hotels. So, anyway, the next point three: if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw. So, there's about this withdrawal of the Israeli forces. And then um, within with the guarantee that they will stop all bombing and warfare. Then once 72 within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. So this is troubling in this agreement in the sense that the first thing that this plan asks for is for Israel to release the hostages before Israel has released their hostages. So we know that Israel has plenty of Palestinian hostages taken without trial or without any charge and kept in their prisons. And so this may not be all of them. And so Hamas may not accept that uh, simply because of the staging. The first part being they releasing hostages and then Israel releasing hostages. So they call them prisoners, but they're basically hostages. So I think that it should be done at the same time, or Israel can release the prisoners first, the hostages that they have, because they can always get them back if they have to. There isn't anywhere for people in Gaza to go except for some camps, and so it'd be easy to do that in case Hamas doesn't release the hostages. And then once all hostages are returned, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. So they have to hand in their weapons, and they will check to see whether that weapon was used on any Israeli, and if they shot an Israeli, they probably won't be given amnesty. They probably will be going to prison and then some execution. So I don't see Hamas handing over their weapons. And also, there's a plan which seems to be that Hamas members who give up um, as members of Hamas will be exiled out of Gaza towards one of the Gulf states, and then from there, Israel can hunt them down. So, anyway, that seems to me a non-starter for Hamas. So, anyway, upon acceptance of this agreement, full aid will be immediately sent into the Gaza Strip. They could send it in now. Why do they need an agreement to send in aid to help the starving people? So this could certainly change at any moment based on any reason. Um, arbitrarily, and entry of distribution and aid in the Gaza Strip will proceed without interference from the two parties. So, yeah, right. Um, okay, Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic Board of Peace, chaired by President Trump and administered what looks like former Prime Minister Tony Blair. So, this is another problematic part of this agreement. Tony Blair was, for many, considered to be a war criminal. So, many say that he should be tried in the ICC or the ICJ. And So to see him running Gaza, I think was a non-starter for many people. And this Trump economic development plan to rebuild and energize Gaza will be created by convening a panel of experts who have helped birth some of the thriving modern miracle cities in the Middle East. So I guess this is that hotel and casino plan. And number 11, a special economic zone will be established with preferred tariffs. Okay, so that is kind of meaningless in this whole scenario of conflict. Number 12, no one will be forced to leave Gaza, and those who wish to leave will be free to do so and free to return. So, again, if you believe that, I have land to sell you in swampland to sell you in Florida. Hamas and other factions agreed to not have any role in the governance of Gaza. So the governance of Gaza will basically be this peace board, and former Prime Minister Tony Blair. Many people see that as a huge red flag, and there aren't any Palestinians who are currently implicated in the governance of Gaza. So basically, Gaza becomes a part of Israel. A guarantee will be provided by regional partners to ensure that Hamas and the factions comply with their obligations and that New Gaza poses no threat to its neighbors or its people. So I guess there's some kind of security force that will be coming from the Gulf states, working under the control of Israel. 15. The United States will work with Arab and international partners to develop a temporary international stabilization force to immediately deploy in Gaza. So, again, these would be soldiers under the control of the IDF. Israel will not occupy or annex Gaza as the ISF establishes control and stability. The Israel Defense Forces will withdraw. So the IDF will still be in Gaza while the ISF begins to work. So I guess they work side by side. How's that going to operate? I don't think the people from the Gulf countries who would provide soldiers would want them working side by side with Israel, but who knows? Maybe there are some countries who would want to do that. In the event Hamas delays or rejects this proposal, the above, including the scaled up aid operation, will proceed in the terror free areas handed over from the IDF to the ISF. So, in the past, where the people have received aid has been a point where they've been bombed and attacked. So if the ISF is attacked by the IDF, what will happen then? And so something else to look at. An interfaith dialogue process will be established based on the values of tolerance and peaceful coexistence to try and change mindsets and narratives of Palestinians and Israelis. Well, the problem with the Palestinians isn't a mindset, and to say that they need some kind of spiritual or religious counseling to get over their mindset is a complete ignorance of the whole history of how Palestine um, used to be one geographic area with a multiplicity of peoples. There were Christians, Jews, Muslims, all living in peace, and you didn't have groups coming in and taking territory and attacking the others until the British Empire gave the green light to the Jewish Zionists to set up the state of Israel, or a Jewish state. And obviously, the reason behind that was that they would be safer in this Jewish state than living in Europe, where they were persecuted for a long period of time. And unfortunately, they didn't discuss that or get an agreement with the Palestinian people living in Palestine. So all this was done behind their backs, and the treatment that they have received has been terrible. So this isn't a problem of mindset or of some kind of spiritual counseling. Um, so, number 19, while Gaza redevelopment advances, and when the PA reform program is the peace, I guess that's um, the peace board, or I don't know what the PA is faithfully carried out, the conditions will finally be in place for a credible path to Palestinian self-determination and statehood. Now, if you really think that President Trump or Benjamin Netanyahu care anything about Palestinian self-determination or statehood, again, I have, some chunks of swampland in Florida to sell you. And then finally, 20, the United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and the Palestinians to agree on a political horizon for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. Well, if they wanted to establish peaceful and prosperous coexistence, they would need to redraw the lines, and for the Palestinian people to have one area contiguous under their control, under their administration, their management, and a independent state, and Israel to have its own territory. And I understand the history behind the persecution of the Jewish people and why they would like an area where they can be safer than persecuted um, by fanatical Christians or other peoples. So anyway, I don't see this agreement getting anywhere, any traction with Hamas. And Trump is basically, this is it, or we will bomb you to smithereens. I don't think that is the way to go about creating a dialogue. There was interest in a dialogue. Those Hamas negotiators who went to Qatar, who were attacked, went there for that purpose. So anyway, I think that the idea that they came up with points and that they published them is good. There's many good points in here, but in the end, I don't think this has been thought out well to try to get Hamas to the table. But it's hard to say. The situation in Gaza could be so terrible that they accept it out of necessity. So anyway, that is my report on this 20-point plan from President Trump. And apparently, Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't happy about the idea of recognizing Palestine, a Palestinian state, a statehood or self determination. So it could be from both sides, Hamas and Israel, that this 20-point plan is rejected. So anyway, we'll see what happens to that. It's kind of a start and kind of not. I think when you try to assassinate the negotiators who would be the ones to finalize an agreement, you've altered the whole negotiation process in a way that is very hard to repair. So I think between that and many of the points here in this 20-point plan, this plan will be rejected by Hamas. But we'll see. Maybe they'll accept some of these and reject others. Maybe they will suggest edits. But in the end, if you know what happened in this continent, the North American continent, with the U.S. Army and the indigenous people who lived here, how they would make an agreement, after a battle because the invading Europeans were taking more land from the indigenous people who considered it their land, and there was a war, and then the war was settled by a peace pipe and by an agreement that was later broken and then broken again. We can kind of see a pattern that we've seen before in with the Palestinians and with Gaza. So I think if the Gazans are alive to history and know kind of like what to expect from President Trump, they may not accept this. So anyway, that is my report on this 20-point plan. And thank you for joining me. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Uh, your support of independent journalism is much appreciated. So thanks again for joining me and have a good day. Bye bye.